Rescue was deployed to go out for a trumpeter swan that had been seen with fishing line actually completely wrapped around its beak, restricting it from being able to open at all, so it couldn't eat. It was a fairly wild scenario where the swan was, and it was a very difficult rescue. It took quite a few rescue team members, volunteers, etc., to corral this bird, but ultimately we were successful and then got him to the center as quick as possible.
Really good doing better than that. Oh. Gosh. Alex. That's the sinker.
Incredibly swollen.
Oh, buddy.
Awful.
So we can just do it. Yes. You just have to pat it. Pretty good? I'm not seeing a hook. Go. Is that good? Yeah.
It was so awful because this swan, it couldn't eat, it couldn't drink. There's no way it could have survived if we hadn't been able to get involved.
That must be so satisfying. What a relief.
It was a real urgent scenario. Not only was it wrapped around the beak, but it was also wrapped several times around the tongue. So it was restricting, blood flow to the tongue. It was just a bad scenario. The tissue was damaged from the line, so the rehab and vet team had to get it off as soon as we got the swan in. So I've worked at Toronto Wildlife Centre for now 21 years, and one of my most frustrating things that I come across time and time and time again that I feel is preventable is litter, and fishing line is very high on the being worst for the wildlife out there, specifically animals that obviously are going to be spending time near or on the water often. Waterfowl, swans, geese, ducks. Those are the birds that we see the most that are affected by fishing line. But it's not just birds that get affected. Even turtles, we're getting in turtles with hooks in them, even adjusted line, things like that. So it doesn't just pick and choose specific species. It could be anything's vulnerable for it. The hooks and the lures and everything else that comes along with it. It's very impactful seeing these animals suffering from fishing line. Fortunately, here we have a lot of success getting the animals, freeing them of the line, doing medical and rehab, getting them back to the wild. It's super, super dangerous stuff because it's so strong and it will be in the environment forever, and it just restricts, it just tangles and keeps going.
So we received a call about a great blue heron that was suspended over Etobicoke Creek by a fishing line that went from one tree on one side of the creek to another tree at the other side of the creek, and he was suspended in the center. The fishing line was wrapped around his wing, and he was suspended by one wing, probably about 60 feet in the air. So our challenge now was being able to reach him.
It was so high up, our ladder could only get about halfway there. So we were able to rig some poles together using tape and then a cutting device on the top. And eventually we were able to reach the height and just be able to cut it down.
Do you guys have an estimation on how long you would have been out there?
Probably 2.5 hours minimum.
I can't even imagine what that heron was thinking. It must have been thrashing around, trying so hard to free itself. It was really, really an upsetting thing.
Oh, I see. Like it is obvious that it's the right wing.
It's right there. That's where it was.
But you don't see it, right?
No,
Just to
it
confirm.
would have been on there.
Okay.
The other one's good too. I mean, it's not the other.
either.
Yeah, it was definitely that one. That's where he was suspended.
I guess it fell off then.
That's so good.
Okay. Will you hold him for fluids? We'll see. We'll do some x-rays and find out.
So the thing is, fishing line can affect these animals in a number of ways. Not only could it potentially restrain them at a spot, it can also dislodge from where it is now stuck around their feet, for instance. And if it's on there for a long time, it can actually cut off the circulation and causes a lot of damage.
Oh, that looks cool in your left or your right side.
This goose was actually hobbled with hundreds of feet of line, both legs tied together, tight. All it could do was fly to the pond, kind of swim with one paddle of both feet, hobbled together, and then it could fly back up onto land. And it was really a horrible case, and I was really worried for this bird. Fortunately, we were able to get him, which is such a relief, because this poor goose hobbled that way. There's no way it could walk. Without us being able to get involved, there's no way it could have survived like that.
So first thing we want to do is stabilize them and get that line off them. So we try to get them hydrated, assess their wounds. So on this goose, he had some fairly mild constriction wounds on the left side. On his right foot, he had some pretty deep ones, and one of them actually dug in very deep around his right first digit, which is the little toe that they have hanging off the back. It actually cut in so much that it ended up constricting and causing some necrosis or death of that tissue. Based on the severity of the wound and the fact that it was mostly necrotic and dying, we had to go in and amputate the toe surgically. And given the amount of tissue that was involved, we were also not able to close it fully during surgery, so we had to manage it as an open wound. We expect it to heal pretty nicely as long as it keeps bandaged and kept clean. We'll try a couple of different kinds of ointments to try to make sure that it doesn't become infected, and we'll have to just keep an eye on how he is. Hopefully, as long as the tissue heals up well, he'll be able to walk without any signs of lameness or any pain, and hopefully be released.
So it's really fortunate for these 3 birds. All were able to be rescued and relieved of this fishing line issue. Unfortunately, I can only imagine the countless numbers that nobody ever sees. There's many, many animals perishing in the wild due to litter, specifically fishing line. I think it's really our responsibility to smarten up, clean up, and be responsible. If people are willing to do cleanup efforts whenever they're out at these parks, I would suggest, taking a bag, have your gloves. But it's really good also to cut the line into little pieces, because when you throw it out, who knows if another animal is going to pull it out of there, and then it repeats. Fortunately, sometimes we're able to catch these birds, fix them, and get them back to the wild, which is something that we feel really good about, and hope that our little impact on those animals' lives was meaningful and important.
If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and make sure you hit the bell to be notified when we share new content. We would also love if you shared this video with a friend.